And with that, I want to bring on David and pass the mic to him to talk a little bit about the water machine, how they support and interact with all of the other great products, especially the patches today. We're fortunate to hear from our CEO and founder, David. David, thank you for being here and for sharing this incredible innovation with us today.
Hey, Wayne, it's great to see you and, of course, spend some time with you talking about our LifeWave patches and, of course, our new water machine technology that we're going to be coming out with in 2025. And today, what we want to talk about is X39, our other patches, and how exactly the water machine is going to fit into our product line, why we're coming out with it, and what's going to be the relationship between proper hydration and the functioning of the patches, and what type of benefits might people expect. And we really want to dig into this and look at the underlying mechanisms. Now, the subject of water may at first sound as if maybe this is going to be a little bit boring, but I'm going to throw this out here. I'm going to do a little bit of a tease. And there's an article that I pulled up here. And the article is drinking, well, first I'm going to say that this article comes from the Premier Men's Medical Center. And the question is, does drinking water before sex help men sexually? That's not something that a man would normally think about. And the answer is actually quite surprising. But this really gets into looking at what role that water is going to play in cardiovascular health, in the ability of our bodies to make energy, to detox, anti-aging effects. And of course, what we're doing is we're taking something that we absolutely depend on for our life, proper hydration, and we're going to use water in an entirely new way. So when we think historically about Ponce de Leon looking for the fountain of youth here in St. Augustine's, Florida, the truth is actually a lot closer to mythology and fiction, in that what we've done is we've created an entirely new form of water that can be used to deliver a youth renewal effect to the body. And of course, this has never been done before. So we want to dig into this so we can understand it and, importantly, optimize it. So when we're looking at the patches and getting the best results out of X39, we want to say, okay, what's my diet like? And am I getting enough glycine and copper in my diet so I can make copper peptide? Am I getting enough rest? Am I giving my body enough time to heal? I was doing a podcast yesterday, and the host of the podcast said, I can't live without the Eon patch because I'm using it at night, and it has made such a dramatic difference in the quality of my sleep. So we want to understand, how can we optimize the effects of the patches so people are getting the best results possible? And water plays a critical role. Now, there's a lot of interesting things we can do with water. And I'm going to give you an example of something that you're not going to hear every day. How would you like to use water as a means to increase the number of stem cells in your body? So let's say that you knew somebody that was in a car accident and they had a traumatic brain injury. Or maybe you know some athletes like American football players. Many American football players end up with traumatic brain injuries, or maybe you're suffering with a chronic injury and you want to use X39 to support your health. What could we do with something as simple as water and oxygen to heal that chronic injury? Well, I'm going to tell you, and then we're going to dig into this so you can understand this subject of water is way more complex and way more powerful than sometimes we give it credit for. So we did an experiment here years ago when we were developing the water machine, and we were looking at all different ways that we could take this technology. One of the experiments we did was we took and I'll tell you a little bit of a secret here, okay, and use it in good health. We took the temperature of the water down to about 40 degrees, 39 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we ran the water through a vortex in the presence of pure oxygen. And what happens if you have the right setup is that the water absorbs tremendous amounts of oxygen. Normally, water will be about 6 to 7 parts per million oxygen. We were able to get it to about 160 parts per million of oxygen. Now, you get that much oxygen in water and you drink it, and now the stem cells that are in the bone marrow, the mesenchymal stem cells, will come out into the blood. Now, a simple way to do this, where you don't have the expense of this experimental setup, because this was quite big, and it also requires tanks of pure oxygen, is you can go for hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Dr. Afradi in Israel was the one that pioneered this. You go through this protocol, and what it will do is increase the number of circulating stem cells by about 4 to 6 times above normal. Now, keep in mind, if you're 60 years old, these are going to be 60-year-old stem cells. And that's where our X39 comes in hand, because when you elevate copper peptide, that resets the stem cells to a more youthful state. But in this particular case, you go for hyperbaric oxygen, you get more oxygen into the blood. The mechanism is still the same. You get the oxygen to cause the stem cells in the bone marrow to come out. The number of circulating stem cells goes up dramatically. And what Dr. Afradi is doing is using that to treat things like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and traumatic brain injuries. So something as simple as water and oxygen can be used to produce those kind of effects. So if you think that water is a boring subject, it's not. So let's dig into this in a little bit more detail. So here is, let's take a look at this. Here is a link to the Heart Foundation, and reason to bring this up is to look at what would be some of the signs of dehydration. Very often, because of the consumption of coffee and tea that people have today, they'll be dehydrated. And simply by giving them a glass of clean water, we can support energy production in the cell, and we can improve upon the results that people will get with our patches. You send somebody our patches and they say, I don't know, I still have this pain. I got some relief, but not enough. They may not be hydrated properly. Let's use another example. Let's say somebody says they use our glutathione patch in the evening instead of during the day. They may wake up with a headache the next day. I've had this happen where I leave the glutathione patch on and I wake up with a headache in the morning. It's because water is supporting detoxification pathways. And if you end up being dehydrated or you detox too much, you can end up with a headache. So the answer is you want to drink more water. Fatigue is another one. So someone uses X39, they use the energy patches, and maybe they use it for a few hours and then all of a sudden they start to feel fatigued. It could be because their body is detoxing or they're dehydrated and their body doesn't have enough water to make energy. We're going to show some studies on the relationship between water and mitochondrial function, and so on and so forth. There's even a book called The Body's Many Cries for Water, and it's showing how medical disorders can result from dehydration. So, of course, we're not trying to make any medical claims here or claim that our water is going to prevent or treat any illness. We can't do that. But this is all to say that water is absolutely critical to every function in life. Going back to this other article to emphasize the importance of hydration. You know, we can think of this on a daily basis. Maybe, okay, we get a little tired and fatigued. We don't sleep as well. We wake up with a headache in the morning because we're dehydrated. But here's an article that shows that getting enough water on a regular basis, staying hydrated, may even reduce the risk of heart failure. So this is a pretty good reason for wanting to have a program of not consuming too much coffee and tea and getting regular consumption of water. Okay, let's go back over here in the beginning and talk about water as being the foundation of life. So here was a study that was done with E. coli. E. coli is a bacteria that's used for basic scientific studies. And the advantage is that you can do these studies very, very quickly. And of course, you don't have to worry about harming animals or human beings. But this is rather remarkable. In this basic organism, water accounts for 99.4% of metabolites. So water is absolutely the pillar, the cornerstone of all life. We're not going to our cells are not going to be able to make energy out water. And also there is something incredibly surprising that we're going to talk about relative to biological function. And let's get to that momentarily. This is going to come as a surprise to many of you. Okay, first, this study here on the mitochondria. So the mitochondria is the organelle. Organelle is an organ of the cell. Mitochondria is an organelle that is responsible for making energy. Okay, and not surprisingly, the membrane of the mitochondria allows water to go in and out with great ease. Now, this is very easy to understand. In order for the mitochondria to survive, it has to be able to take in nutrients such as glutathione, such as nitric oxide for the production of energy, other enzymes, and it has to be able to get rid of metabolites from the production of energy. So in other words, water will carry fats and proteins into the mitochondria, turn them into energy, and the waste products have to get eliminated into the cell and then eventually out of the cell and then out of the body. So not surprisingly, water as a carrier has to be able to permeate. Now, very interestingly, in this study and in others, it will show that the mechanisms by which water is able to easily permeate the cells is not well known. But actually, that's not true. The surface tension of the water, so in other words, how slippery water is, will greatly determine its ability to get in and out of the cell. So like with our water machine, which is creating a highly organized structure for the water, will easily penetrate the cell. And this is why, and Wayne would say this is a marketer's dream, because he and I have had this conversation. In our studies, we showed 79 out of 80 people had an effect from our water within 15 seconds. So people are connected to our water machine, to heart rate variability, to an EEG. 15 seconds later, the readings on the machine change and there's favorable improvement. In that one person out of the 80, it took 2 minutes. That's incredible. And of course, the health effect.
我会从其后